All right, welcome to whatever today is, the 4th of December. This is the LF Decentralized Trust Technical Advisory Council meeting. There are two things that we have to abide by today. The first is the antitrust policy notice. So we need to be aware of and not participate in any activities that are prohibited by any of the antitrust and competition laws across the world. The second thing that we have to abide by is our code of conduct, which is linked in the agenda, but basically says to be respectful of others on the call, their opinions and ideas, and everything should go well. I will apologize in advance for any audio dropouts. I am sitting in an IKEA in Spain using their Wi-Fi. I have no idea how good it is, but yeah, we'll find out. So let me know if you guys have some problems, and I'll switch back to my cellular service, and that was okay, I guess. I still had some issues, but anyway. Um, so for announcements today, we have the standard Dev Weekly developer newsletter that goes out each Friday. If you do have something that you would like to include in that newsletter, please do um, please do leave a comment on the wiki page that is linked in the agenda. The second announcement is about maintainer days. The registration is open, and there is a link in the agenda that will allow you to register for that event. It is happening in January, and it is free for all attendees. And if you would like to also include the member summit, then please do also include that in your scheduling, as you will get free entry into that, regardless of whether or not you're part of a member company or not. Let's see. The next announcement is about TAC chair. So time to nominate yourself if you would like to take on the role of TAC chair and or TAC vice chair. Those need to be submitted before December 12th, which is just over a week away, next Friday. And the election then would happen the following week timeframe. So please do get your nominations in. Are there any other announcements that anybody has?
Just a quick one from me. I just wanted to apologize for my dismal attendance in the past few months. It was for good reason. I've been having a lot of conflicts with day job, so I just wanted to apologize for that. Thanks everyone for your understanding.
All right. Thanks, Peter. No problem there. Any other announcements that anybody has or would like to make?
It's not an announcement, but I would like to ask a question about the clarification of the registration at the member summit. As you just mentioned, so everyone who's going to the Maintainers Day then also get free attendance for the member summit. However, I think I understood it quite a little bit different, in particular in terms of the registration of our mentees of the mentorship project. Maybe someone from the LFTT staff can clarify on that.
Yeah, I can answer that, and apologies for any confusion. So it is the case that all project maintainers are eligible to go to Member Summit as well. I think the confusion on our part is that we've maintainer days is we're opening it up to more than just project maintainers. We're opening it up to prospective maintainers like a mentee. So I think that's where the distinction is. So somebody who is a project maintainer is welcome to go to Member Summit, but if you're not quite yet a maintainer, if you're a prospective maintainer, you're interested in becoming a maintainer, you're more than welcome to attend maintainer days. But we have limited space in the member summit, so we had to limit member summit attendance only to active current maintainers. Does that answer your question?
Yes. I think then maybe we have to, I don't know, maybe adjust here the wording a little bit more or better.
Sure. Yeah, and yeah, we can take a look at that. I think on the registration page, and maybe it has a little bit more clarity, but yeah, we can take a look at that.
Great, thanks.
All right, thanks for the clarification. So the next thing that we have, if there's no other announcements, let me just pause to make sure there's no other announcements. Okay, so the next thing is the project reports. We do have a couple of project reports that have come in, at least as of when I put this agenda together early Monday morning. The Iroha Q4 report and the Identis Q4 reports are available for your review. If you haven't had a chance to look at those yet, please do have a look and provide your thoughts and feedback and potentially your approvals if you do approve of them. For overdue reports, we have a number of overdue reports. The Trust over IP Q3 report. Arun, have you reached out to Trust over IP recently about that report?
Yes. So the last status that I heard from the project team is that they're still unsure of what to report. And I did communicate them about the new reporting format that the TAC has recently introduced. And they're still skeptical about what to send in a report. So it would be nice if we can invite some of the TOIP members to this TAC and ask them to maybe speak about it and hear what real concerns would be.
Okay. Did you, who specifically were you speaking with that gave you that feedback?
This would be Drummond.
Okay. Yeah, so maybe I can reach out to Drummond and see about what the what needs to be clarified, and then potentially also get them on the agenda for your meeting, whether that be this year or next year. I think it's important that we have clarification as far as what is expected of reporting and that people understand that. So if they're not understanding the new updated instructions that we put out there, then obviously there's something else we're need to do for them and need to do with that particular piece. Thank you for that. Oh yeah,
Tracy,
Daniela. Wait, I don't know who's first. Daniela, Diane?
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna make a point that Diane joined the steering committee. On average, they have,
Yeah.
15 to 20 people. So go ahead, Diane.
Yeah, what I was going to say, Tracy, if you meet with them, I would happily co-meet with them for continuity as well into next year. I'm going to continue to attend the TSC. They just had a full day summit, which they pulled together a lot of stats and things to present. So I think they may, and help them maybe do their figure out how to use the new template and help them write it if need be. I think they are kind of overstretched on all of the different working groups they have, and so I'd be happy to come to the meeting with you and help provide some continuity and help them develop the report. They do have a lot of information. It's just how to distill it down and get it into there and to find the time and the person to do that. And I think it's not Carla, but the other woman who's the tech writer is probably the one who will get saddled with writing it from the sounds of the group organizationally.
Okay. Yeah, I know they do a lot with their reporting already. So maybe it's just a matter of how do we get the format that they have into Markdown so that it's available for us to review and see. But I'll definitely keep you involved in that. Diane, thank you so much for kind of, attending those meetings and trying to have that conversation as well. Okay, we also have the Bevel report, which we're not gonna get because it's dormant. So I would expect that not to come in anytime soon. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Bevel project itself actually moved to a lab. And I'm pretty sure that was approved in March. So we probably should just remove this from the list of overdue reports since they are now lab. We also have the Firefly, Besu, and Caliper Q4 reports as well that are overdue.
Yeah, just on the Firefly one, sorry about that. I've been away for a couple of weeks traveling with work, so I'm hoping I'll raise it this week, just trying to get all maintainers to agree on it. But yeah, hopefully you should see it there shortly. Sorry about that.
Yep, nope, Enrique, understand travel and the challenges that brings. So we'll
Cool, thanks.
yeah, we'll look forward to that one. And then for upcoming reports, today is the 4th, so we have the Loch Ness Q4 report that's due today. The Hyrule Q4 report is due next week, and then 2 weeks from now, which is the end of our reporting cycle for the year, are the credible and trust over IP Q4 reports. Okay, for discussion items today, I had the open PR that we have from Matthew, but I don't see Matthew on the call today. So we'll hold off on that one. There was a few things that came out of our last discussion 2 weeks ago on that particular PR, and I know Matthew was gonna get that updated. So hopefully we'll see that one come in when Matthew is back with us.
He should be back on the second half of the call. He just had a conflict on the first half, by the way.
Okay, no problem. Well, maybe we can hold that off then till the second half, unless we get completely tied up in all the other things that we're going to be talking about today. Hendrik, you have your hand up.
Yeah, hey, Tracy. So I tried to add something to the agenda for today, which is some information and outcome on how the Hacktoberfest and Good First Issue initiative we did at Hyro worked out. I currently cannot see that. Does that mean we do not have time for this, or what is the case here?
So the case is that I did see your message. I did not have a chance to respond, given that I moved to Spain this week.
Yeah.
So I apologize for that. We may or may not have time for that. How long do you think you need?
Oh, it's Sophie who's here with us doing it. So I think that is something Sophie needs to answer because she prepared everything as a presentation. Sophie, so what do you think? How fast or how much time do you need to do it?
I think I need 15 minutes.
Yeah. And my assumption is there are some points, or at the outcome, there are some points where I would like to discuss to move things from Hyro up to LFDT, which from my point of view makes totally sense. So having at least a 5-minute discussion afterwards would make sense from my point of view.
Okay, let's hold that off until we have a discussion on the goals. And I want to do a quick retrospective as well, using the retrospective tool. Last I looked, I didn't see any new entries, but I want to give people a chance to add entries to that because I need to report on that to the governing board for the next governing board meeting, which would be before we meet again. So Sophie, apologize if we don't get to it today. We may need to hold off on that till next week. But we will definitely add that to the agenda, either if we make it today or at the beginning of next week.
That's great. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So let's take a look at the goals that we set for 2025 on what it is that we want it to do. So I hate to read this, but I'm going to anyway. Explore whether our life cycle fits the needs of all project types for LFDT. So specifically, do we need a distinct life cycle for standards type projects? So we haven't done a whole lot on this particular topic as far as I know. I think it's still an open item and something that would definitely be useful for the TAC for next year to carry on with, because I do think that there's a possibility of new projects coming into LFDT that are standards types projects. And so would like to ensure that, if there's any changes that we need to make to the life cycle, we do that. I know we had some discussions on this earlier on in the year, but we never really came to any conclusions or output from those discussions. And so definitely, I think this one's still an open item, but would love to hear if others feel differently. Okay, I didn't see any hands coming up. So the second one was creating a contributor ladder. So we did create a task force around this, and Diane was leading that to create our contributor site. Diane, do you want to give a brief update on where that's at and what still needs to be done to close that out?
Yeah, thanks. So we have moved, it started out in labs. So we moved it over to labs and we used the lab space, and you'll see that I think was one of the more effective things we did. A good use of labs. And we have just, with Rise help, moved it into the official GitHub repo. I think it needs a few more reviews and a little bit more, a couple of more sections filled out. We have blanked them off. Those are the security and operations sections. We have not tackled those yet. So there's still more sort of research and writing to be done, but it is there now and ready for review. And what I'm hoping is that at the maintainer days that someone, because I probably won't be present, will lead a workshop to get feedback on it from the maintainers to make sure it fits the needs of the maintainers. And then we'll probably, after getting that feedback, do some sort of social campaign to make sure people are aware of it. But it's moving along. It's slowly getting there. I have to really thank Jessica and Rye and everyone else for the help, and Char in absence, and for the help getting it done. But I can always use more eyeballs on it.
All right, great. Sounds like some really great progress was made there that we can report back to the governing board on, and show them that new site, where it's at, what it's all about. The next bullet that we had was lowering the barrier to entry for maintainers. I think we did some of that with the work that was done as part of the contributor site. But I know the sub bullet here, the automation piece, I'm not aware of anything that was done related to that, but would be happy to hear if I'm wrong and somebody was working on that off on the side. Okay, I'm going to take that as nothing happened specifically related to that. The developer engagement bullet point, again, I think some of that was touched on with specifically the contributors ladder and the contributor site that we did. And so I think, there's pieces of that were happening. Arun, you, I believe, mentioned at the beginning of the year, potentially doing some specific improvements for the mentorship program. I don't know if anything specific happened there, but if anything did, please do bring that up.
Sure. So I remember one change that was proposed this year, which was to welcome all contributions and all mentorships. For instance, until last year, each project we were only accepting one mentee. So beginning this year, I believe, there was an option for mentors to elect more than one mentee. But of course, like in terms of whether the mentee would be compensated or not, that's something that I don't remember if all of those mentees were compensated, but at least that's one improvement that was done. And also in terms of projects, now that we are allowing unpaid voluntary mentorships within the program, majority of the projects that were proposed, they were accepted into mentorship program. These were the new improvements, but we can iterate over what happened this year and improvise further in the next year if this has brought any improvements.
Great.
And I remember those mentees who completed, they were, of course, being compensated, but through other means. For instance, a participation within the LF conference, things like that would benefit building their profile and career.
All right. So good stuff happening there. Obviously, the more mentees that we bring in, the more chances of future mentees becoming long-term contributors and eventually maintainers. So good to hear that we open the doors up for more mentees and more projects based, even if they weren't paid, they were voluntary. All right, so the next one that we have is inventory of entry points for new community members. I don't know that we specifically focused on this with the contributor site, but I do know that a lot of links were included in the contributor site. So that's probably the piece that happened. Anything else that anybody recollects specifically around that particular point?
I would, if I didn't get my hand up fast enough.
Okay.
I would say that the work that was done under Hyro that Sophie will talk about at some point around the good first issues it has, and that's part of the reason we want to bring it up to the TSC, has really helped a lot. And I think we can genericize that as well in 2026 and bring that through to help other projects with the same thing. So that's a great way to bring in new community members. And so we did an experiment with it, and then we've adopted the process under Hyro. And so I think that's worth mentioning. We may not have done it across all of the LFDT, but I think that's next year's task.
Okay, great. I see a hand up, Enrique.
Yeah, I think that's a good point there. And the first good issues. I think we did tackle a little bit that in the consistency task force around how do we consistently onboard new maintainers into projects, how we make it consistent, like issues and first good issues, etc. How people can join projects. So we've kind of worked a little bit on that, I would say, in that task force. But yeah, I would love to see what Sophie has done for Ohio and how we can use it next year.
All right, perfect. So then the next bullet item that we have is understanding hurdles for projects and addressing those. I would say potentially the quarterly report and project annual review instruction updates that we did to move away from the template and give just a general feel for what it is that we're looking for from those projects is one of the things that probably falls under that. Would be interested to hear if there's other things that people recollect us having done related to the hurdles for projects and addressing those hurdles. Peter?
I would highlight that one initiative we did for creating a channel on Discord to provide help for people who are struggling with Git. There wasn't much traffic on that channel, but it definitely was an initiative to try to get people over the humps with Git and GitHub in general.
All right. Thanks, Peter. Anything else that anybody would think about under that particular topic? Okay. Let's see. Connection of trust over IP into the broader community, making the concepts and theory easier for broader community to understand. I think we still have some work here to do. I think there's been some start of a collaboration, deeper collaboration between kind of the other projects that exist within LFDT and trust over IP, but I think there's probably still more that can be done, more that we can learn from them. specifically on what they're doing and how best to work together. I don't think we've given enough necessary time to that, if you will. And so hopefully, that's something that we can continue in 2026. I do think that part of the reporting is something that will help us to understand, right? To be able to see what they're doing, and to have people better understand all of the work that exists under trust over IP. They obviously have a lot of things that they're doing. I think there's pieces of it that are well known, pieces of it that are maybe not so well known, and so maybe even getting them to come to some of these meetings and just sharing, having a sharing session on kind of some of the work groups and task forces that they have over there might be very useful for 2026. But would love to hear others' thoughts on this particular one. I know the one meeting I missed, I don't know, 4 weeks ago, you guys did have some conversations there, but if there's anything, that we should bring up specifically for the governing board, would love to hear about that.
I think it's there's another aspect of this. It's not just trust over IP. What I would like to see is that the reports, that someone comes when we're reviewing the reports and maybe from each of the projects and gives a little presentation so that there's more engagement by the maintainers and the leads on all of the projects. So and so that we have a stronger connection and knowledge base on that over in the coming years. So, and an invitation not just to trust over IP, but to all of the other projects.
Yeah, Diane, I know we talked about that. I'm pretty sure we added it in our governance documentation around the annual reports. I think I cautioned people on doing that for the quarterly reports, just given in the past we've done that and it's taken the whole meeting to go over all the quarterly reports. So, I think
Totally
it's a balance.
agree.
I think it's a balancing act, right? Of when do we invite them to come and have the conversation? Is it, only on the annual review? Is it the annual review and a 6-month type review? Like, I think those are good questions for the next TAC to be talking about and answering. Okay. Implementations of the trust over IP software available, making the implementations available. I don't know that there's been any specific projects that have come in related to implementations of trust over IP. I do know some of our projects are looking at trust over IP work and trying to incorporate that with their projects, but I think this was specifically around the standards that are being developed, having reference implementations for those. Does anybody know of any that I may not be thinking of at the moment, or even labs? Okay. So that's definitely something to look forward to for next year as well. Ensuring that projects fulfill the qualities that LFDT stands for, both new and existing projects. I think that this one was in combination with the consistency task force, understanding what that consistency is that we're looking for, and then ensuring that our projects are meeting those things. I don't know that we've specifically done any evaluation per se. Would anybody disagree with that? Okay. So then the next one that we have is promoting cross-project collaboration and identifying opportunities in the projects that might be shared across the projects. I feel like the one that I've heard about the most on this particular call is some of the work that Hyro's been doing with some of the other projects, and also the Indian Besu implementation. Those are the two that I'm aware of that are ongoing, but would love to hear if there's others that I'm just not aware of. Okay. So those are the ones then that I'll make sure to note. Determine how to get end user feedback for our projects. I don't think we've specifically in the TAC focused on that. Would any of the projects have worked on that would like to bring that up? Okay, so that's an open item probably for the next year's TAC, is looking at end user feedback and bringing end users closer to the work that is being done within our projects. Project onboarding guidelines for DCO and licensing. I'm not sure what this one was. I thought we already had that. Was there something else that was specifically this particular point? Arun?
Oh, I raised my hand a bit slower for the earlier ask about end users engagement.
Go for
I
it.
know Diane introduced a way for end users to notify if they're using the projects. Maybe those get counted
Adopters.
against, right, the adopters and keeping them up to date. Maybe those get towards this goal. But I'm curious if others have any other suggestions and comments on what else can be done. Maybe we can improvise on adapters and ask project maintainers to maybe run a meeting, involve all those adapters once in a while. Maybe it could be a quarterly thing, and talk about the project roadmap and what they have accomplished in a quarter. All of these can be again suggestions, not mandatory things. Please, I don't know what else we can think towards that. But I believe like those can be treated against this goal.
I think that's an interesting thought, Arun. I think the question is, how do you know, like you'd have to have some contact person in the adopters file, which I don't think we have, right? For the projects to be able to do that, unless they just hold a webinar, right? Maybe it's a webinar hosted alongside with the LFDT staff, and they, you know, specifically say this is for the adopters and other end users to learn about, one, the roadmap, and two, bring up any concerns or questions or whatever the case may be. But I do think that's a really interesting idea that we could suggest to projects. Okay, back to the DCO and licensing. Any thoughts on that one? I'm not quite sure what it was intended for. Yeah, okay. Nobody remembers that one. Maybe I'll have to go back to our first call where we discussed the goals and at least see what it was to see if we did do anything related to that one. Consistency in how projects approach things. Obviously, the task force was created. We have the PR from Matthew that basically will address that particular goal. Determine ways for projects to report problems and challenges to the TAC. Obviously, we have the TAC Discord channel, we have the TAC mailing list, but I don't know that there's any other mechanisms that we have put together yet. I know we talked about creating issues and a backlog for things for the TAC, and maybe even though we haven't quite implemented that yet, I think that's probably a good way to address potentially some of those sorts of things in the future. For anybody, doesn't just have to be projects, but anybody in the community to be able to report concerns that they would like to have the TAC discuss. Okay, and then the last one we have here, guidelines for determining whether code is a lab or part of an existing project. So I know Hendrik, that Hyro was doing some of this with the guidelines they were creating? Is there, I know, I don't think that was ever specifically brought back to the TAC, but is there anything that might be useful for the TAC to put and maybe make more generic for other projects to be able to utilize some of the work that you guys have done there?
I think so. Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, and as said, maybe that goes like hand in hand with the presentation we have again. I would really like to move some of the artifacts we created up to LFDT if it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think it would be worthwhile to bring that to the TAC and share the work that was done there. Because I do think that there's, an intention to help all of our projects. And so whatever we can do to do that in the future, I think would be really great. Peter, you have your hand up?
Yes, I realized as digging through my memories that, or for the earlier item, which the DCO guidelines, I think I might have been the one to bring that one up because on Cacti, it's always a problem for new contributors, the DCO. And I think the reason why we didn't remember much else is because I also said back when I proposed this that I don't have a solution, and I think we've already pushed this or optimized this process to the point where it cannot be simplified anymore. But unfortunately, between Git and GitHub and the legal requirements, it's just complicated still, even in its most basic form. And so that was the original proposal, and I don't think I personally have come up with anything else. I know that at some point Rai pushed pull requests to the repos to upgrade to the DCO v2, which at least was much more stable than the earlier DCO. So that was definitely a good thing. But overall, it was always just a problem of people coming in, submitting their full pull request. They get hit by the DCO. We tell them to fix it. We give them a guideline. They try to force push or they try to push an additional commit. And then they get lost in the weeds. They have no idea. And then we go through this round of 3 to 4 iterations of me telling them, hey, please do this, do that. And then they just end up asking, okay, can you just fix it for me? So it's definitely a problem. I don't really know how to fix it, but I just thought last year to keep bumping it because if someone has any ideas, then they should come forward.
Okay. Thanks for that recollection, Peter. I think that I remember having a discussion as well with, I believe it was Hart and David, maybe in the TAC chairs and vice chair sync, where we had potentially written up something related to DCO and CLAs and that sort of thing. Did we ever publish that, David?
We did not. I mean, yes, we did write something and we did not finish publishing it. We could. I think we maybe should, and we just didn't. I think it was earlier this year, and I may be forgetting some of the details, but my memory of it was we had drafted it and we were going to get some internal review just to make sure what we were saying, because none of us were lawyers, right? That we just wanted
Right.
to make sure that it all made sense. And I think that's maybe where it got held up. We could, if you think it's worth doing, if the TAC thinks it's worth doing, we could move forward with that.
Okay. Yeah, I just wonder if that part of why we wrote that or drafted it was related to this point as well. Or if it was related to the earlier point, which is identifying problems that projects have
Yeah.
and figuring out how to fix those. So it might be worth just pulling that up again, seeing where it's at and see if there's still usefulness in what it is.
Yeah. I mean, to Peter's point, if we've simplified it as much as we can, I do think having people understand why they're going through it might help them deal with the hassle of it. I think it doesn't make it any easier, but I think if people understand that there's a reason there, maybe the frustration's lower. Like, I think if somebody feels like they're doing it for no reason, that could make the frustration higher. So anyway, that's my thought process. If the people understand there's a good reason for why we're doing this, that might be useful.
Yeah. Yep. Art.
Hey, I'll jump in there. So yeah, what we were doing, if I recall correctly, is we were, putting together something about the DCO because a lot of folks were sort of frustrated with it and wondering why we had to have it. And unfortunately, we got roadblocked. So we put something together and we asked the lawyers if we could share it. And they're basically like, no, you shouldn't share legal advice. And so
Okay.
asked them to put together something. And then they said, well, we can't give people legal advice like this. So we sort of got stuck where we couldn't say anything because we're not lawyers. And the lawyers apparently can't give legal advice uh, in this form. So that was why we got roadblocked on that, which was rather frustrating. But I didn't see a way forward with how we could put something together that would make the lawyers happy on this.
Again, maybe we let's talk. I mean, maybe the next step is we could talk about it internally. I think if we just label clearly that this is not legal advice, maybe that's a way forward. I mean,
We specifically asked that last time.
yeah. Well, let's talk about it internally. How about that, Tracy? We'll discuss and get back to you.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. And if, it takes a TAC member writing why DCO is why we use DCO, maybe that's what we need to do to get past the concerns that the lawyers have.
Yep.
We'll figure out something because I do think it's important for people to recognize why we do it. It's not just some hardship that we're trying to put on new contributors. It's actually important.
No, for sure.
So yeah, I think that we'll let you guys take that, and then we can discuss in a
Okay.
future
All right.
call.
Yeah, we'll follow back up, and maybe at the very least we can at least share the draft of what we wrote, with the TAC versus publishing it. So, yeah, we'll get back to you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay, so there is one more thing I want to do, which is the retrospective. I want to take some time for the TAC to put their thoughts together on it. Because I do want to report that out to the governing board as well. So Sophie, I'm going to apologize to you because after we do that, we definitely will not have enough time to get to all of the great presentation that you've done, as well as the discussion items that Hendrik wants to talk about. So I'm going to push that one off till next week. My apologize for making you hang out for 45 minutes, but hopefully you did find this discussion interesting nonetheless, and you're more than welcome to stay for the remaining portion of the call as well. But just wanted to call out that we probably won't get to it today.
That's okay. Thank you. It has been interesting to be here, and actually some of the things that have been discussed already are issues that we have faced as well, and are being I will be discussing in the presentation. So, for example, lowering the barrier to entry for maintainers, how we may need automation, the DCO signing and strategies that we've used so that developers are able to overcome it. So yeah, we have lots of these things that we can talk about maybe next time as well, covered in the presentation.
That'd be great. That'd be great. I'd love to see what you guys have been working on, and hopefully share that with the rest of the community so that they can learn from it as well. Okay, so Rye, can you find the link for the retrospective tool and share that with folks? It's in the TAC only chat because I didn't want to spread that wide and far. But if you are near Discord and can get there before Rye does,
I'm working on it.
Yeah, I know. Somebody will find it and stick it out there. retrotool.io/something. That's all I know. Great. And Rye's going to share it with us so we can see what's there and maybe add to it with the remaining time that we have. So we have 12 minutes left. I would like to, quickly go through this and see, if we could get some things added to each of the individual items, starting with shout outs. Any shout outs that are not currently listed here that we need to make sure get listed?
Rama?
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted clarification. I did add something to the retrospective, but I did only after adding did I notice the login button. Were we supposed to log in before writing something?
You do not need to log in.
Okay.
What you need to do is enter the information in the private section and then hit the publish so
Right.
that it publishes for everybody. But you do not need to be known in order to add stuff here. So I think, yeah, Rye scrolled down. I could see a few more things added to the shout outs. And that maybe weren't there before. So appreciate you, Rama, adding those. If there are other things that you would like to add at this point, please go ahead and do that. I think there's some good things in here already regarding a lot of the LFDT staff and the work that's being done. The reviewers for the mentorship proposal, the TAC hoodie. People think that's pretty cool. And then there was also call out for Rye specifically, Min and David for mentorship, David and Sean for workshops. And then I did a call out for all of the TAC members because I think, one of the things that I thought went really well this year was just the participation and the ability to be brutally honest about how things are working or not working. And I think that helps to further the work that we're doing, which is great. If there's other shout outs, like I said, go ahead and add them to the board and I'll make sure those get included for the governing board. But if there's anybody who would like to specifically call out anything now, please do that as well. Enrique, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I think you skipped one post-it note about you, Tracy. So I think there's a shout out for you. I think a lot of the conversations throughout the year were really good, but sometimes we got to a place where we were blocked, where we needed someone to step in and kind of either take a step back and try to realize how we move the conversation forwards. And I thought that leadership was really useful. Obviously, you're going to be missed next year. So I think we've learned a lot this year from the things that you've been able to provide as chair. So I plus one that Tracy leadership. Shout out, I just wanted to mention that on the call.
Thanks, Enrique. Yeah, I have a hard time reading a card about myself because it just seems wrong for some reason. So appreciate the words and all the claps and the hearts and everything. For whoever does become TAC chair and vice chair next year, I've already promised to make sure that I sit down with you. So don't hesitate to put your names in that to help you with whatever it is that I can help you with. I just know that I didn't have enough time given the move to invest. So, but I do have enough time to invest in helping who's ever next to make sure that they're successful. All right, the next one here that we have is what went well. So task forces went well. The generic mechanisms for the annual and quarterly reports were listed, although maybe there's some more work we need to be doing there. The lab space, we did definitely use that a lot for some of the projects that were suggested and asking them to move there, plus other labs that have just come in as labs. The meetings were ran smoothly and they just are unknown. The answers are currently unknown and they need to be answered. And so I think that's perfectly fine. And if you felt they were stupid, they weren't stupid because somebody else had the same question. Several new project proposals that we accepted, and making sure that we're continuing to focus on what's next in the decentralized space, not just DLT space, but the decentralized space in general. We had a lot of good debates, and we did finally come to consensus, but I think the debates and the work that we did there was good to have that as we went forward. So yeah, again, if there's anything else that anybody wants to add to the what went well, bring that up now or add it to the board itself. Okay, what could we do better or differently? We definitely need to move through those annual reviews more quickly. I think that did hold us up on potentially accomplishing more things, starting new task forces and things like that. So I think that would be useful to figure out a way to move through those more quickly. Continuing to focus on our goals to ensure that we're accomplishing more. Those two were both mine, I will admit to that. I think that although I added that, a long time ago, I thought it was interesting to go through the goals and see that there's actually a lot more that was accomplished than in my mind I thought we accomplished, which is really great. Deliver the maintainer days both in person and virtual event. So that's obviously a call to the LFDT staff on something that could be useful for more people getting involved. More active participation from all TAC members on agenda topics. I think that's a great idea. I hate coming up with agendas, and I'm sure the next chair will have hate that as much as I do. So if there's ways that can be done to make that easier, potentially looking at the issues as a mechanism to keep track of things that might come into the list of things that should come onto the agenda, or keeping a backlog of agenda items, some way to do that, I think would be very useful. And I will admit, I did not add that card. So whoever added it, I think it's a great suggestion. And I think it will be very useful for whoever's next as the chair. Hard to read all the quarterly reports for all the projects and feel like you have time to give it proper attention. I think that's probably true. I think there's a lot of things that we don't dig into that we could dig into and ask questions about. Myself, I tend to go through and I read them, and if there's something that, pops a question in my mind, I'll put that in there. I'm not sure I get best feedback from that, but yeah, I do think that there is a question about reviews and quarterly. Is quarterly too much? Is not enough? Is there something that can be done differently there? So that's definitely an item for next year's TAC to take a look at. Figure out how to communicate more effectively with project maintainers for timely reports. Yeah, I think we had a mechanism. It kind of got broke when we split into multiple orgs. But I think there's something that can be done to help remind people before, in an automated fashion versus somebody having to speak up and tell people about it. Engage more with the community. So TAC members joining community calls or inviting project members to speak with us. I think we did a bit of conversation about that one today. I think that's potentially a future item to figure out how do we bring people in to share what they're doing more often. I think we've had a few projects that have been willing to do that without us asking, and I think that's a really great thing. So what is a mechanism to get those who maybe not be thinking about it to realize that this is a forum? And I think maybe that would also open up these TAC calls to more people attending versus just the TAC members. We were a bit relaxed on quarterly reviews and enforcing best practices this year. I did not write this, so I appreciate whoever did write that. I would agree we were a bit slow in reviewing things and getting them merged in. I would say that we never got 100% on any of the quarterly reports as far as approvals or even reviews. So definitely something that, to look to improve on as TAC members next year. I'd like for the TAC to find out a way to include maintainers, contributors in the discussions. Yep, I think we just talked about potential ways of doing that, which is inviting them to actually come and have the conversations. I think that somebody said something, it may have been Diane, about socializing the contributor side. I think socializing some of the work that we're doing in the TAC to project maintainers will also help with that. So that's a good item as well for the next TAC to focus on. Any other, what could we do better or differently?
I think one thing, sorry,
No, go ahead.
sorry, Tracy. I think one thing I don't really see it. Yeah, one thing that we spoke about as part of the quarterly reviews, I think maybe enforcing a bit more how the projects are doing against their yearly goals. I think that's something we talked about. I think we did write a little, we had a PR to change a little bit the timeline so people are more responsive. But I feel like, yeah, just coming back as a TAC when you're reviewing quarterly reports, not just looking at the content, is it progressing, but actually, are they making the right steps towards what they said they were going to do that year? And that's a combination of factors, right? It's a combination of having the time to go and look back at the annual report, figure out what they committed to, come back to the quarterly, if it's Q3, maybe reread Q1 and Q2 to figure out. So it is a combination of time plus effort. So yeah, I don't know how we solve that one next year, but I think that's something that we should try to do better for sure.
Yeah, I think we had a discussion on this topic. We did add something to the instructions on making sure that the projects report on those goals. And we also had a conversation about potentially assigning a TAC member to each project for the year to make sure that they're kind of following through on that timeline and those goals and that sort of thing as the quarterly reports come in. So that could be something that, the next TAC decides that they actually want to do, because I do think that's a great way to, keep our projects honest, if you will, but also keep us honest as far as, are there goals that, they should be working on that they're not working on, and what is it that they said they were going to do? Have they changed their mind on what they said they're going to do? That sort of thing. So I think that's a really good idea, Enrique.
Yep. Sounds good. Thanks, Tracy.
Yep. Okay. I know we're over time. It was one more set of things, the recommendations for next year's TAC. I'm not going to read these, but they are there. So the next year's TAC can have a look at those and see if there's things that they specifically think are good ideas to focus on. And I want the next year's TAC chair and vice chair to have a look at this too. This is kind of our mechanism for helping the next year's TAC to move forward. So if there's other ideas at all on any of these topics, please do add them. I'm going to, like I said, report this to the governing board. And I think it's a good tool to use for next year's TAC to start with. And maybe when we invite all those folks to our future call, we can have this, discussion with them about sharing some of our ideas. So I apologize for running this late today. I will call today. We're going to have Sophie present to us next week. I think, David, you had a topic on Maintainers Day that you wanted next week. And then I think the week after that, we'll invite next year's TAC to kind of have a sharing session on, letting them ask us questions about what it was. Some of you will obviously be continuing, but there's obviously new folks coming in. So I think having that kind of transition handover is a good thing. So that's it for today. Thank you all for hanging out with me for a little longer than normal, and we will talk to you all again next week.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Tracy.
Thanks, Tracy.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you so much.
And thanks, IKEA, for the free Wi-Fi.
For sure.
Yep.
All right. Have a great day. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.